If you're watching this review on a mobile device, chances are you already have a match-free gem puzzle game installed on it from one of the thousands available on the App Store, most of which are free to download and play. You may actually already have Duel Fever 2 installed on your phone, which released nearly 6 years ago on iOS. So how does this ancient, free-to-play mobile game translate to the console realm? Well, let's take a look as I review Duel Fever 2 for the Nintendo Switch. The first thing to note here is that on console the game is no longer free to download as it is on mobile. The launch UK price is £3.29, which won't break the bank, but let's dig in and see if you get value for money, starting with the story and modes. Now, there's no story here, which is fairly typical for these sort of puzzle games, though some do squeeze something in. Both Ironcast and Battle Chef Brigade on the Switch combine a decent overarching story that intersperses the gem matching action, but Duel Fever 2 opts for just 3 variations on the main game idea. First, there's a quick mode where you attempt to get the best score you can in just 60 seconds. An infinite mode, which as the name suggests, allows you to zone out and just keep matching gems until your eyes start bleeding. Or the mode I spent most time in, normal mode, where you have a set number of gems to clear each level against the timer. There are local high score tables for normal and quick modes, plus a few in-game achievements to aim for, but that's basically it. As each mode is a variation on the same theme, and with no online leaderboards or any other compelling reason to make you want to return, I'm going to score this section a 4 out of 10. Now on to the graphics and sound. As I mentioned above, this is a 6-year-old mobile game and boy does it feel like it. From the basic UI, which features big flashing square boxes, to the terrible in-game music. The game features 2 pieces of music, the menu music, which isn't actually too bad and quite befitting of a game like this. In fact, it almost pays homage to the music found in the earlier Bejeweled games, which Duel Fever so desperately apes in most ways. But once you start a game, wow, you are greeted with one of the worst choices of music I think I've ever heard in a game. Have a listen to this. Far from being zen-like, you get some sort of upbeat ukulele jingle that wouldn't sound out of place in one of those cheery American cable adverts for a local mum and pop carpet store or something like that. Yeah, it's bad. Thankfully you can switch it off. I'd say it's quite a fun challenge to see how long your brain can withstand it before you want to throw your Switch against the wall. Once you have switched the music off, and you will, there are some generic sound effects underneath for when gems get matched. These are nothing special, but won't have you reaching for the mute button at least. Visually, Duel Fever 2 does little to hide its Bejeweled roots, as I mentioned earlier, and it looks like some of the very early games from that series. Bear in mind though that the original Bejeweled is approaching 18 years old and you have some idea of what to expect. The gems on the board are a direct copy of Bejeweled and there is only one background in the game. The entire audio-visual presentation in this game just feels like assets used from a beginner's game creation toolkit, and they also get a 4 out of 10. Well, let's see if the gameplay fares any better. It's the most basic example of match-free there is. How good or bad that is probably debatable. Purists of the genre will probably enjoy its back to basics feel, but I prefer a bit of meat on my gem swapping bones. The biggest omission for me here is the lack of any power up gems when matching any more than 3 in a row. These have become the staple of modern match free games, and whether it's a line clear gem, a bomb gem, or any of the variations in other games, you just expect something for matching lines of 4 or 5, square shapes, T-shapes, etc. All you get in Duel Fever 2 is double points for matching anything above a 3, and it feels very flat for it. Other than that, as I said, the order of the day here is basic match-free gameplay, and this is something that Duel Fever 2 does quite well, all things considered. In handheld mode, the touchscreen is utilised very nicely, and sliding gems around is quick and responsive as you'd want it to be. It's such a shame then that as the touchscreen is used, it just doesn't feel as comfortable to hold as it would playing on a phone. Perhaps an option to flip the screen vertically would have been nice. The alternative of course is to use the Joy-Con or a controller, and this works about as well as it ever has on a console for these types of games. It cannot match the immediacy of using a finger, as you have to shift the cursor all over the board and hold down A to initiate a swap. Sometimes I found the cursor would get stuck on the gem, and attempting to move the cursor around the board actually initiated a gem swap without pressing A. It was rare, but it shouldn't really happen in these sort of games. But overall, you can probably see all that Duel Fever 2 has to offer in terms of gameplay in less than it takes to watch this review. What we basically have is the early Bejeweled games with no frills. This may be ideal for introducing younger children to the genre, but I doubt it will hold your attention for very long. Gameplay gets a 5 out of 10. Now onto value, and whilst this isn't the most exciting example of the genre, if you just want a bog standard old school Bejeweled experience, then for a shade over £3 you may have some value here. For me there wasn't enough to keep me coming back, but for the price of a pumpkin spice latte at the moment you can't really complain too much, and value gets a 6 out of 10. So overall, Duel Fever 2 is a no-frills approach to the match-3 genre, and at present is the only gem matching swapping game like this on the system. The music is awful and really needs to go, and I would have liked some online leaderboards to give me a reason to come back and better my score. But it is only £3, and for that reason I'm going to give Duel Fever 2 on a Nintendo Switch a switched on score of 5 out of 10.